everyone, and welcome to the Baka Central podcast. My name is Shiv, also known as Hypernoodles, and today I'm joined by my two pretty normal, pretty casual co-hosts, Kenneth and Toby, along with another special guest who will introduce themselves now.
Hi guys. A little bit about me. My name's Chriselle, and sorry, this is my first podcast, so you guys are gonna have to bear with it. But yeah, I'm a weeb, so hence why I'm here. So, anyways, I've been really into anime like since I was a kid, and yeah, so I'm 20. And I've started it since I was 6 years old, so that's a long way. But that's oh my god, I don't know what to
say. It's a pretty good start to say that we're all weebs, because I think that's a pretty accurate description. Except I think there's one person who's the biggest weeb out of all of us, Kenneth. Yeah, I think that's you. That's Kenneth.
You know what? I'll take it as a compliment. That's fine.
Okay.
That's
fair
fine.
enough. So thank you for coming on, Chriselle.
okay.
For the guys who don't know, Chriselle, she's basically a cosplayer, and again, just like in the first episode, we met through some mutual friends at Comic-Con for the first time, except we didn't interact with them that much. I'm guessing, Kenneth. I think we were too engrossed in consuming copious amounts of alcohol and getting free Pornhub Plus premium subscriptions from.
Wait.
That's how it is.
That is how it is. That is how it is. So yeah, pretty much me, Toby, and Kenneth, we met Chriselle through some mutual friends. And pretty much got along to the point where now she is on the podcast. So a bit more about yourself that we wanted to know about. Pretty much the first thing that we grill people on, or I guess we should start grilling people on, is some of your all-time favorite animes.
Okay, so you guys are probably gonna hate me, but because I watched this since the very beginning it came out, my all-time favorite is Naruto. I am a Naruto.
Okay. Clearly we can see this as a person of class and taste. And culture, of course. Toby, would you agree with that?
I'm sorry.
But, okay.
But yeah. Naruto's my number one. I can't remember other animes that have been on my top of my list because I am very flexible as well. Like right now, I love JoJo. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is like one of my top at the moment as well.
So like we were discussing, I'm still very, very late on getting onto the entire JoJo hype.
It's so good. It's just so good. I think everyone can definitely say it's very bizarre and it's really good. So.
Not gonna lie, yeah, I agree. I've started it. It's dope. It's dope.
Okay, so have you started? Did you start the manga or did you start the anime, Toby?
I actually have the manga. The manga was very interesting, but obviously when it comes to life in anime, it's just even better because oh my god, I can't get enough with it. So yeah,
Jeez.
I'm sweating talking about this now.
But what about you, Toby? Did you start with JoJo in terms of manga based, or is it one of the rare times where you just jump straight into the anime?
Yeah, it's one of them times where I just might as well see it. I'm free, nothing to do. Let's go watch our anime. Check it. And I agree. It's really it starts off a bit like it's
And did you start from season 1, Toby?
Yes, I did.
Oh, good, very good man.
The thing
Everyone should start at season 1.
Right, I started on season 1.
Oh no,
long
okay.
time ago.
Cool.
Okay. I watched I think around 3 or 4 episodes, and honestly, I did get a little bit bored, so it stopped recently. I've been told to watch season 3, and I can just skip 1 and 2.
Whoa!
So some of you may hate because after looking at reviews, everyone says second is the best season. But from my limited experience because I've only watched one season.
Mm.
Season 3 was really good. So
It is really good. Like the art style as well. It's even
yeah,
much better.
Jotaro I think, is a good character.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
very.
100% agree, mate. I could not disagree
Mm.
more. Like Jotaro, yeah, best character.
Yeah.
I'm out here. Don't
Please,
even know who the fucker
for all
is.
the girls out there.
Yeah. Hey, ladies. Chin chin daisuki desu
Yeah.
ka?
Just hey.
Hey,
Hey,
Jojo's
you know,
mine.
Jojo, just a typical 18-year-old or whatever.
Of course, of course.
Yeah. He's
Standard guy.
actually 17. Oh, get it
Oh
right.
yeah. Oh, my bad. My
Wow,
bad.
Kenneth, you're not deserving of the JoJo chin chin.
That's fine. Of course, that's
No.
what I look like.
Kind of fake.
Oh yeah.
You're right about that.
But yeah, so
Okay.
if we were to go back to the topic about some all-time favorite animes, we mentioned Naruto. If we were to talk about maybe some short-length animes, what would be on some of your top lists, or maybe something that you would be extremely likely to recommend to a friend?
Short list. If we're going to talk about this, I think Carol and Tuesday is very good.
Ooh,
Like
I don't know.
the animation plus the storyline and the original songs on it is just bomb. Like it made me cry. I'm just saying it's that good. On the first episode, it made me cry because that's how it really gets you into your feelings if you wanna like watch anime, which can get your heart. Kokoro ga itai desu.
Oh, sugoi!
So yeah, Carol and Tuesday is really good if you're definitely looking for that good animation. So that's a short anime to watch. It's only 2 seasons as well, so yeah, I recommend it, guys, if you're ever looking for it. And it's on Netflix, so it's easy access as well. There you go.
I'm
What?
out here. I'm out here paying for Crunchyroll on a monthly basis.
Well,
And maybe some other websites that I don't think I can state, just to stay legally safe.
censored.
But interesting. Okay, so that's definitely an anime I've not checked out. So pretty much, anyway, guys, today's topic, or the episode's topic, this episode's topic, is basically talking about reality versus anime. As a quick sort of introduction into the topic, pretty much, a lot of us have a lot of first-hand experience with Japanese culture, in the sense that we have traveled to Japan quite a few times, and within those times it's given us a sort of inside look into what Japanese culture actually is like for a foreigner who has primarily had their ideas of Japanese culture primed by anime. Is it something that's healthy? Is it not? What parts of it is good? What parts of it is bad? And kind of delve into that entire conversation about, how is this going to really have an effect on people's view on Japan and Japanese people on an international scale as well. So I think to kind of maybe start off on a light-hearted note, how about we talk about our favorite memories of visiting Japan? Why don't we start off with you, Kenneth? And no, you cannot start off by talking about Ichiran Ramen.
Oh no! Oh damn it!
Oh no.
I knew
Okay.
exactly where you were gonna go.
Oh god. That's a bit of a tough one. I've had a lot of good memories, I'd say. Do you want anything in specific in terms of like?
Let's just off the dome, whatever. Like for me, I'll be completely honest.
Be
Having
careful about what you say here.
okay.
No, go on. I'm just,
Okay. I'll be completely honest. For me, it's pretty much going to some of the fishing ports in Hokkaido. It's super fucking peaceful. Food's amazing there, and apart from that, having some okonomiyaki in Osaka, I can't go wrong with that, especially on the street side.
Oishi.
In America Town, it's you definitely can't beat that feeling for me personally. But yeah,
Okay.
Toby,
okay.
would you like to chime in on some of your treasured memories from Japan?
Yes.
So for me, like when I went to Japan, I went to 3 different parts of Japan. Inari, Osaka, and Tokyo. And all three have like their own like standouts. But for me, I definitely do love Osaka and Inari.
Yeah,
Osaka,
Osaka's amazing.
yeah, Osaka's amazing.
Yeah.
Got
But
more food.
oh, the food's delicious.
I love how that's the first thing that we all gravitate to is how the fuck is the food, my guy? Like fuck everything else. Yo, how's the shit that you put in your mouth?
Oh, to die for, man. But for me, like in terms of food, it was definitely the karage. I don't know if I pronounce that right,
Yeah.
but basically the
Karage
fried
chicken, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna go for the whole stereotype of black people. Yeah, chicken. Yeah, chicken. Chicken. It was dope. I'm just saying, like, oh, it was heavy. Like at first, I think I thought at first it was like, no, chicken, try it. But when you bite into it, it's like,
It's so
oh,
good and juicy.
good.
And personally,
I'll tell you, it was amazing.
I don't know about you guys, but I feel like Japanese fried chicken, even in like whether it be like Lawson, 7-Eleven, or even KFC in Japan, it feels a lot easier to digest than like European or
definitely.
American fried chicken because it just feels lighter, like altogether. And I don't know why that just oh fucking hell that shit. Oh, oh. I don't even have words
It's an
to
Asian
describe
thing,
it.
innit?
It's just like like orgasm noises. That's all I can make thinking about that chicken. Like that's how good it is.
And it's very like experimental, I guess.
Yeah,
like,
for sure,
It's like,
for
like,
sure.
like certain things won't like certain things aren't meant to go together, but they like screw it. Let's go for it. Like example, like I remember on my last night in Japan, we had like I had ice cream and Coca-Cola in the same glass. It was just hella weird. It was alright, I guess, but it's just like something I wouldn't think to like even come across or like to like digest. But it was really nice, definitely nice. It's very like out there. Like I don't care. Let's see if it works. It works. You sell it. I definitely respect it.
That's the best part of Japan, isn't it? The randomness.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Oh, randomness is a big factor.
I think to try like add one to my list is going to an izakaya at around 8 o'clock in the evening. Holy shit! Like you walk in, you have a pint of beer, most likely either Kirin, Asahi, or Sapporo, and I'll just be there. I'll light one up, and before I know it, it's either a salary man or it's like a university student just comes up and starts
Strike
talking
up a
to me.
conversation.
And I'm like, holy fuck, like this never happens in the UK, right? I go down to Spoons. I'm like, okay, these are the people I know. These are the people I'm going to talk to. Fuck everyone else. Literally, right? But there it's like, holy shit, let me buy you a drink. Let's get to know each other. And it's not even like in it like a creepy predatory way or they're trying to like take advantage of anyone. That's just generally how the social culture is like post work or post university, because it's like a huge contrast to how their day-to-day lives are of sitting in the office like fucking grinding away, and then they just let go of all the steam and get to meet new people, which personally I in fact I would retract all my other statements. That was probably my favorite part, like just lighting one up with some random salary man, hearing about his life, about his two kids, where he met his wife in a high school. It's definitely you can hear some absolutely amazing stories there for sure.
I think it's really good because it kind of contrasts their normal way of life, like you were saying.
100%,
But
100%.
the way I mean is that like normally when you see them, when you interact with them, when you see them in the streets, people tend to be a little bit more reserved, well, depending on where you are. But
Definitely.
from a similar moment that you were just talking about, we went to a bar. I think it's called the British pub or something like that.
Yeah.
Went to visit the bar with two of my friends from university. And one of my favorite moments was throughout the night we just got to know more and more people, and eventually we went to karaoke. Just sang some karaoke songs, with random people we'd never met before, and just continued. Went back to the bar, and then went back home. And during all that time, there happened to be an earthquake, and we were singing so loudly we didn't even notice.
Holy, okay, wow. Kenneth with his booming, echoing, manly voice.
At least you would have died happy then.
Oh,
Not for one.
it would have
Sorry.
definitely been a happy night, but it was just kind of surprising to note because we
Mm.
weren't really expecting that from what we experienced before. But yeah, that was probably one of my favorite moments.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, it's true though because it I went like 2 years ago. I went with a couple of friends to a bar in London, and it turns out every Sunday, they hold a Japanese social event over there. So I went, and the way how you guys described it, like people are just pulling you from the side and just kind of socializing with you. Hey, let's get to know each other. It was shocking for me because, as you've said, it's not normal in like a normal pub, but like for them it seems to come so naturally. So it was daunting at first, but obviously like I was like, oh, okay, that's how they work. So it is definitely a very different experience,
Yeah.
for
I,
me anyway.
I think one thing that like kind of stands out for me, especially like majority of the places that I'd go apart from Japan, right, are other countries that don't allow alcohol just straight up, because I'd go there just to kind of explore the place. But let's say like I'm even like in the US and I'm having a drink. Um, it's something that I don't even know how to describe it. Fuck. If I go to a Japanese izakaya, right, in Japan, and they find out I'm a foreigner, they are super friendly, number one. Number two, if I try to communicate with them in Japanese and try and make sure that they understand me, they're even more supportive, right? Which I think is something that you can't really do. So because of that, it's not something that you see in a lot of other countries, and it's definitely a huge stand-up point to how people can be very appreciative of foreigners in Japan.
True.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah. I can do.
sorry,
Sorry, go
no,
ahead.
what were you saying, Kenneth? I cut you off there.
No, I was just gonna say I can agree with that. They are really supportive in a lot of ways. They're very friendly. If you don't know your way around, they will come up to you and ask you if you're lost, stuff like that,
Yeah, of
which
course.
you don't really get in London. If someone in London sees that you're lost, they don't care. They're
Yeah,
just gonna keep
they're
walking.
like fucking use Google
Yeah.
Maps, fam. Like, what are you doing?
Sad
Right.
reality, really.
Right. So yeah, pretty much. One thing I did want to touch on about is what Toby brought up about kind of bring like sticking to the stereotype. Now, of course, we are not of Japanese descent. We are of exterior international descent. For me and Krish, we would be of like pretty much Southeast Asian, except not Japanese. And for Kenneth and Toby, as well, we're not exactly from the Japanese culture. That's pretty much what I'm trying to say. How did you feel? Was your presence kind of like made you stand out a lot more because of who you were and where you were from? And like kind of not to put it in a sort of negative tone, but in terms of like your racial background, did it kind of make you a more of a standout person than normal?
Uh, does anyone want to go first, or should I?
No, no. Yeah. I go first and then
I'd say it was definitely noticeable starting from the airport when you land, um, because I'd say, well, I can only assume because they don't really see black people as often in Japan. They're not as, I don't know where I'd say, well, they're not as common as in Europe,
Yeah.
or I'm guessing in America. Because tend to stand out a lot, people kind of, they don't stare, but you'll notice a lot more looks than you would get in another country. Um, it wasn't. I didn't feel that it was in a negative way at all. I didn't feel like I was getting treated worse than other
Uh-huh.
people, but just more that I was getting noticed a little bit more.
Okay.
Um, that kind of carried out throughout whatever city I went to. It wasn't as noticeable in Tokyo because Tokyo's the most popular city to visit, so I'm guessing the people there see black people or foreigners a lot
Yeah.
more than others. But when I went to a smaller town in Kamaishi, where I'm guessing they didn't see as many black people, it was a lot more noticeable when I was walking around.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about this before we started recording the podcast, in the sense that it's for especially for us in specific, we kind of have two different experiences in sort of. I don't think saying racial discrimination is the right term here, because they weren't necessarily discriminating; they were just racially curious. I don't know if that's a valid way to say it.
I'd say that's a valid
racially
term,
curious, because of their lack of exposure to the different cultures around the world and different people around the world. And when we're talking about this, I actually had the exact opposite effect, where someone did not believe that I was of Japanese descent. I don't know if it's because of my features, that it's more in line with what Asians have, even though I don't particularly. I do not look anything like a Japanese person, but it was kind of, in this ramen store in Hokkaido, where pretty much the chef, like, I could not speak that much Japanese at that time, when I had to communicate to him and said, sumimasen, I can't speak Japanese, and he tried and tried, and then at the end, with very broken English, he just says, how can a Japanese person not be able to speak Japanese? And I had to tell him, like, I'm not Japanese. Like, I'm my parents aren't Japanese. I wasn't born in Japan. And his face, like, instantly fucking took a 180, right? And the way that I keep explaining this to everyone else is like, yeah, I literally murdered his children and wife in front of his eyes. That was the look that he was giving me, which was very intense. So, I don't know if they kind of potentially have, I don't want to say different standards, but it feels like it's very noticeable that some parts of Japan have an inherent lack of international exposure. And do you guys think that's a good thing? Do you guys think that's a bad thing? And maybe how would you approach it in the future, knowing that you're likely to get more attention than normal tourists would?
I wouldn't say it's necessarily good, but it has its advantages and disadvantages.
Pros
One,
and cons.
yeah, pros and cons, exactly. If you're trying to get noticed, then it's good. So, say you're in a bar and you're trying to actively talk to more people and meet different types of people, then it might help you, because I'm guessing, and I felt like, anyways, that the reason we were getting so much attention was partly because we were foreign.
Okay.
So, if they wanted to talk to foreign people, see what it's like, because a lot of the questions were about where we came from and stuff like that. So that's good in a sense, but I'd say it could be bad if you're attempting to live there, because if you are meeting different people every single day, the stares and the glares and that kind of thing are not really gonna stop, because whilst you're actively living there, you're seeing different people, so they're gonna be as surprised to see you
Yeah.
as you are to like see their reactions.
Yeah.
So it's got good and bad
Okay.
things, you know.
I was gonna say, sorry, to fill you up on it, obviously, because I'm studying, and I'm at university, and obviously you guys know, I'm studying science. So I found out as well that it's not the Japanese fault, obviously, but I found out that the Japanese are very, like, pure-blooded, so they're not really into, like, marrying off to, like, foreign people. So that also plays a factor to how, like, their cultural values, I suppose. Like,
that's
because they
that's very interesting, because I
Yeah.
stumbled across some again, taking into context how much of this is randomized, but some of these YouTube channels where people go around and interview people in specific countries and ask them certain questions, right? You have the super obscene ones, like Americans going up as like, oh, does size matter to college students?
Yeah.
But I remember someone made like a series of those videos asking Japanese men and women about foreigners and foreign dating and what their perception of them was. And surprisingly, to my surprise, it wasn't. Of course, they diversified what they meant by an international person. They didn't just say the typical white European or the white American. It was a lot more racially diverse in the way that they asked the question, a lot of them were surprisingly, accepting of international people, or like people from different countries and different cultures to be in a relationship with. And especially, Kenneth, this might be news to your ears, but they seem to absolutely be mesmerized by black people. So Kenneth, you're in. You're in.
I was gonna say, I think it just takes the wits for them to actually, like, just ask you out, like, hey, because you're international, let's go out, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because, but I mean, I would chicken out if I was like Japanese. I would chicken out, like,
Mhm.
I wouldn't have the wits. But like, yeah, as I said, it must have like taken a lot of courage for them to just kind of step up to that,
And
But, yeah.
again, like I think to something that Toby and Kenneth were talking about, rural Japan. I think there's a clear sort of difference. Yeah, there's a clear difference in how they both sort of interact, right? So I think it's kind of expected, typically, that someone in rural Japan may not be more open to international dating, whereas someone from like Tokyo or Osaka, which is like some of the biggest metropolitan places in the world, they would be a lot more acclimatized to almost, shall we say, sort of dating from the norm or dating against the norm. So I think it's completely dependent on sort of where in Japan you go and take your sample of people and what sort of answer you're going to get back. But say, for example, Kenneth, and this is something I'm quite curious. Me and Kenneth, we were kind of having a discussion about the JET program, which is the Japanese English teaching program. And we were looking at it and we were kind of interested, thinking maybe we should apply, check it out and whatnot. And one of the topics that we did bring up, and I was going to ask you about this, was let's just paint the scenario that we've both been accepted into the JET program. We both moved to Japan. Okay,
Right.
different places.
Right.
Let's say they're rural places. How would you feel about potentially dating someone in Japan?
I think it kind of depends, because the thing is with a JET program, it depends on why I would take the JET program in the first place. Because if I'm doing it in order to try and live in Japan in the long term, then I would consider it and I would most likely go ahead with it. But if it's only a short-term thing for experience or for furthering my career, even just doing it for 2 years or so, I might hold back from it, because not necessarily because of anything cultural, but more because I don't think it would be, for me anyways, it might not be a great idea of dating
To get
someone
like
in
emotionally
Japan
involved with someone that you might have to let
Yeah.
go of.
if I'm
Yeah.
planning to move, unless it's already pre-established that they're planning to move to a similar country
Yeah, of
anyways,
course.
then I would be less likely to do it. But if we're just talking culturally, just in terms of whether I would go for it or not, I'd say I'd be quite likely to go for it, because I don't really. I'd say I'd be likely to go for it, because for me, I don't really, culture isn't really a barrier.
Okay.
I don't really mind what type of background and culture people are from. But yeah, I'd be likely to go for it. But one thing I did want to mention, earlier you were talking about the different types of responses that people have, whether they're attracted to foreigners or that kind of thing. I'd say definitely with the current generation, they're probably more likely to go for foreigners than the older
Oh
generation.
yeah,
'cause-
definitely.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah,
Definitely. True.
Yeah,
True.
agree.
because what I found when I visited Kamaishi, which is a smaller town in Japan, when we were talking to the younger generation, they told us that their parents are expecting them to, like, say, go to university in Tokyo or whatever, and come back to the smaller town to kind of build it up.
Yeah.
But they're not really that attached to the city. Obviously, it's their home and it's where they come from. But since they've stayed in that place all their life, they're more looking to, go to Tokyo, explore, see different towns, see different cities, and maybe move somewhere else instead of coming back to a place that might not have great opportunities for
Yeah,
them.
I mean, I think there's sort of like something that Japan has a quite a huge issue of about over urbanization, right? You have these cultural hubs like Sendai, Osaka, Tokyo, Kobe, and they're only getting bigger and bigger. Whereas the more rural areas are suffering and they're kind of vanishing into the distance, and it's interesting that the older generation have a stronger attachment to that place. It's completely understandable, if it's like your hometown and you've grown up there. Yeah, of course you're gonna have an emotional attachment there. But I think that it's not something that can be tackled really easily, because even now in our generation, I think things have to move 100 miles per hour, otherwise they're not moving at all, right? I think that's the sort of mentality that a lot of us have at this age, and it's, if anything, it's sort of amplified even more in Japan to the way that the work culture is, the study culture is, that everything has to be going 100% at all times. So it would be quite interesting to to see how maybe the older generation react to the thoughts of maybe urbanizing their specific areas of where they live, or towns or villages.
So I kind of think it's best if they don't, because me personally, I like how there's a contrast between like a very like urban or very like overpopulated area and there's another area which is very quiet. Because me personally, I feel like there's true beauty in an area which is like not like diluted with like all these like modern day vibes, and the idea of that idea of like a almost like a peaceful area. Okay, is okay. I'm gonna like phrase it like really weird.
Okay.
I kind of like it when it's like a person's going through in their life of like a like now like urban modern whatnot. Then after a certain point they can like go into like probably like the hometown, like a quiet place and just like live peacefully. And I feel like that's kind of life that I would like to live some way. So and I feel like and I don't think like I'm the only one who kind of has that kind of mindset. Was like after kind of going through being bombarded with the harsh reality of life of the fast paced like London vibes. I definitely like to like live outside London, like probably grandkids or whatnot, and just like
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, it's good to
I
be
get
in the
what you
moment.
mean.
Yeah. It's sort of
Yeah,
like this
so
transitional phase, right?
yeah, definitely.
You want something different, like a different atmosphere.
Yeah,
Like you've
yeah,
experienced that, so you want a bit of something different, I suppose. Yeah, I get you.
and in turn, I feel like Japan should really, if anything, like take advantage of that. Because I knew that a lot of tourists would definitely love to uh, hone in on that peaceful lifestyle. I feel like they haven't really. I mean, probably in like advertisement, they probably like say like, oh, like go to this area where you can like see the trees blossom or fish
Yeah.
like they do in anime
Yeah.
and whatnot. I feel like
I mean,
Japan should definitely take advantage of that.
hell, we're talking about Japan here. Like, what's not to like? I
Yeah.
mean, in general, like everyone, I'm pretty sure everyone is pretty like curious about going to Japan at some point of their
Yeah,
life.
of course.
Yeah, most
I think
definitely.
I think that's where, like, it comes down to the people that are going to Japan, right? And what are they going for, right?
Mm,
Yeah.
If we take a sample group
true.
of, let's say, for example, us four, right? The four of us, sorry. If we're going to Japan, I think there's a clear spread of urban exploration, rural exploration, and cultural exploration, right? And and also there's environmental exploration, which is pretty much for the landscapes and whatnot. I think on the majority of the people for the Japan that they know, and this kind of transitions into our next topic that we will move on to, is the sort of fast-paced urban. Everything's going at 100 miles per hour, like I was saying. It's extremely advanced. Everyone uses technology to their advantage. Bidets in every single fucking toilet you go into. Right?
Heavily, truly heavily.
Literally,
Very scary.
listen.
Scary.
Some
If you don't know what it is,
some of the toilets are more
What's the
complicated than my
sensation?
fucking phone, right? I don't even know what the fuck is going on half the time. Next thing you know, I'm just getting tickled in my asshole.
Something that's something.
But yeah, so I think that's the image that a lot of people might have of Japan, and it's kind of curious to see what has caused them to build up that image, right? Of Japan to either be this huge technological, like city country where everything's so modern and advanced, compared to some people who think of Japan as the old, like the samurai or ninja, or like the countryside and these dojos, temples, shrines, mountains, these sort of things. So it's completely down to, I think, the people and in every individual person, because they're gonna have specific likes, specific wants, specific needs that they would want to kind of take advantage of in a vacation. So it's completely dependent on that, in my opinion.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely agree.
yeah,
That's true.
I definitely agree with you in that sense. Media, when I say media, that's not necessarily just anime, just in general. It's kind of put a very specific image of Japan. It's a little bit different for most people, but I'd say until you actually go there, it's not exactly how you think it is. Because for me, in my mind, I kind of expected it to be like, oh, they're like everyone's really into anime, that kind of thing. But when you go there, unless you're in like the anime district, it's not as common as you think it is. Like not everyone's really into it. Like it's
Yeah.
very specific types of people, just same as here. But yeah.
I was gonna say, have you talking about that? Like, have you ever noticed advertisements of going to Japan? They always show the landscapes and all the traditional stuff.
Mhm.
It's very interesting because they don't really show much of the cities.
Yeah.
They
that's very
mention
true.
it, but they don't really show it. They only show all the good stuff, in
That's
nature.
very, very
Do you
true.
know what I mean? Yeah, I have noticed that one a lot.
Like
really.
kind of going off what Kenneth just mentioned about, I also think anime as a whole is, and this is something that I'm kind of drawing from my personal experiences in Japan, and the anime watakoi, which was it's hard for an otaku to fall in love. It's kind of depicted that people who are into anime and manga, or what we call as kind of more niche anime and manga, they are kind of seen as they're embarrassed of their own not
Culture.
even culture. It's as if they're the embarrassment to Japanese culture, in a sense, right? Because like in Watakoi, again, it's completely fictional. It's not based in real life, but the reason why Watakoi kind of resonates a lot more with what I'm saying is because I've kind of experienced it almost in firsthand, on first hand, right? Like going back to the entire whole conversation about izakayas and stuff like that. One of my main ways, after the entire formalities of exchanging names, talking about where we're from, blah blah blah, the small chat is out of the way. Then if we go into oh, what do you like to do and stuff like that, and then what are you doing in Japan, the moment like anime pops up, right, at first you think it's completely okay, and you're like, oh, okay, and then some of the people, they're like, yeah, I love this anime, I love that anime, and I'm like, okay, cool, wow, this is pretty sick. But then the moment you say one anime that is not in line with a mainstream, like a mainstream jump manga or a jump anime, instantly you're just like, oh wait, hold on, are you one of them? And I'm like, wait, what do you mean? So
So there's a different subculture
exactly,
almost,
right? And the times that I've met people who are maybe, okay, let's say the people who are into lolly, okay, fine, okay, you can be into lolly, whatever. It's a bit creepy within limits, within very deep limits.
True.
You can be into lolly, fine, right? But the moment I talk to them about anime and stuff, and then or even like, okay, lolly or maybe ecchi anime as well, but ecchi anime is a bit more accepted, I guess.
Too much.
I wonder why you say
I
that.
know, right? But it's pretty much like they instantly kind of shun themselves off, like, oh no, I cannot represent myself as a Japanese person because, you know, I'm not what the world wants to see, or I'm not what Japan wants to portray to the world, in a sense, right? And I don't know, that kind of really split me down the middle, because I don't know if I felt good about it, or if I was like, oh my god, they're really considerate of the sort of image that their country portrays to the international society, or if it's like, wow, they're really suppressing themselves, or Japanese society is really suppressing them in the sense of outcasting them because of what they like and what they enjoy, or a specific branch or a specific subculture that they enjoy. And you know, the way that I wanted to kind of tie this into the next question is, you know, we've all been to Japan, like we just talked about, and we are all extremely engrossed in anime and manga. If I was to ask you, name at least one or two things that anime has kind of influenced you in the way that you perceive Japan, maybe before you've arrived in Japan for the first time, what would you say? Let's start with Kenneth.
Okay. I'd say my first. Well, I think I've kind of touched on this a little bit, but one thing that I'm thought would be a little bit more accurate is kind of Japan's look on anime, like their perception on anime, because it's not as widespread as you think it is, and even when you go to different, like especially in the countryside, pretty much no one watches it at all. Like they're not really into that kind of thing at all. And when you mention it, it's almost like it's more popular in the West than it is in
Totally. I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. Let's see if I can think of another thing.
I mean, for me, I'd say the main thing that kind of got busted really quickly, is kind of the social interactions with people, right? I kind of initially, I'd watch an anime before going to Japan for the first time. I was like, wow, they're super friendly, and they'll talk to you, and they'll be like this and that during the daytime. And then later, I realized, okay, no, it's like Tokyo is not a joke from 9 to 5. Like, people are out on the streets to fucking, you know, get their bread. And then the moment it hits 5 o'clock, it's like it's a completely different place altogether.
Yeah,
right.
That's true. And if you go early in the morning, you can see like business
running,
sleeping in the park, you know, from a night out, stuff like that. Like they go all out. It's work and party, and work and party, or work and drinks, or whatever.
And like for me, it was like, you know, anime and manga kind of portrayed this like, oh, perfect balance of life, right? Oh, you know, he goes to after school club, or he goes to extracurricular activity after work, and then goes to his apartment, and then he meets his girlfriend, and then he does this and that. Except you go. I went to Japan, and then I was like, it's literally the perfect definition of work hard, play hard. Like, I've never seen a more accurate like representation of that phrase.
Yeah.
So, yeah, pretty much. What would you say some of your misconceptions about Japan that would derive through anime that were busted would be, Krisha? That was a very complicated fucking sentence. I twisted my own tongue.
I was gonna say, I got a little bit confused, but I got there. I got there. I got there.
I was like, okay. But yeah.
Like, for me, it's literally like you know how it's all advertised around the world now. Yeah, but like for normal, like indentation marks for normal people, it may they think that it's like, you know how you overgeneralize things and, you know, oh, that person likes anime, he must be a loser, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, I really hate the fact how people assume just because you like anime doesn't mean you're, you know, like you're the type of a introverted person who doesn't speak to people or do
Yeah.
whatever, right? It's that kind of thing that people assume. Like for me, I like anime, but it doesn't mean, you know, like I don't speak to people or anything. You know, like it's more of like a hobby, really. Like
Mhm.
people are actually very different. Like you cannot assume that to everyone else who likes anime, because you know, some people who like anime do actually have their lives going well. You
Exactly.
know, like they do actually have other things going on. So it's the fact how, you know, like most people from outside, you know, especially, no offense, like especially in the Western world,
Mhm.
like, you know, because it's people, we people are, they are a minority,
Yeah.
you know, so the majority of the Western world would think they're just weird, or they're just, you know, something's wrong with
Yeah.
them because they like anime. No, it's not really, you know, that's not necessary,
True.
because I guarantee you the most like most of the people in the Western world who grew up, they've watched anime. Like, what the hell is
Yeah.
Pokemon? That is anime. Like, they grew up on that shit, and
Yeah.
you know, you had fun. So why have you got to talk shit about anime? Like, do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Right? So it's like that kind of misconception about people who actually like these things. So that really triggers me slightly.
Yeah.
And obviously, it's gonna take a while for people to realize, like, hey, look, it's 2020, just come and accept it. I mean, anime's now in Netflix anyway, so your kids are gonna be watching it, so you can't really say much about the people who liked anime way
Of
before,
course. Yeah.
you
Of
know?
course.
So
I
yeah,
think. I
but
think kind of
yeah.
echoing on what you said, and you guys please do chime in on this as well. I think some of the things that have kind of contributed to anime going a bit more mainstream in Western culture is kind of these major movies, especially like Your Name. Like for
Yeah.
me,
Mm.
Your Name was this movie that I could like visually see a change in perception of anime. Right.
Like, it's not just your typical kiddie like
Exactly.
action
Exactly.
movie. Yeah.
Right. Um, and before Your Name, people had watched Your Name. The misconception they always had was, oh, okay, so anime is either people screaming really loudly, very low. Exactly.
Naruto.
Kenneth has a lot of
Asta.
experience in that department.
Hey, what?
Hey, it's true.
Careful, that's what I'm saying.
If I say anything, I will go to
Mama.
jail.
Yeah, you don't say things like that.
Well, I won't. Anyway,
Okay,
but
yeah.
like sort of
Yeah.
Lolita or Shota sort of stuff, or Tentacles. I don't know why Tentacles was like this huge association with
Yeah.
I think I know exactly why.
Because people thought,
We can all
Yeah.
agree. Yeah, we can all
Hashtag
agree.
RIP Hentai Haven.
no.
Rip.
Listen, that was a sad loss. Okay, that was a sad loss.
I know everyone is gutted. Not gonna lie.
Can't relate. Still can't
Wait,
relate.
Yeah,
shut
yeah,
up,
yeah.
Toby. You okay? You're not this good Christian
I'm
boy that you
sorry.
think you are. Okay, if I go through your goddamn history, I will find some dirty shit in there.
Swear you would.
Okay. Oh, what's this?
Okay, look, he's
Wait,
stopping
what's
that.
this?
Okay.
Big
Really
Japanese
history.
milk?
Really history.
Fuck salary man? Wait,
Wait,
hold
what?
on, Toby.
Oh
What
my
is this
God.
that I just found on your history?
そんなこと聞きます。
What?
Go man, go man, go
聞き
man,
た
go
く
man.
ないです。
Nani?
But
Okay, right.
yeah. So personally for me, I think Your Name was like this huge milestone where people were like, oh, it's this art form where you can really sort of express yourself and really pull together a very impactful story with a lot of emotions. So yeah, I totally definitely agree with you in the sense that anime's reputation slowly been changing in the West. But it's definitely not at like to the point where we can say that anime is mainstream enough that anyone and
yeah, it's
everyone's
safe,
gonna know what
you know.
it is in the West, right?
Yeah.
So I mean,
Definitely.
kind of going back onto it, like from my previous experiences, for you guys who don't know, I'm pretty huge on slice of life stuff. I'm huge on slice of life romance sort of animes, because you know, as Kenneth likes to say, I'm the biggest simp here. Which is a lie, by the way. I am the biggest alpha here.
Okay.
But
Okay.
for me, and again, I want to hear your guys' thoughts on this. I felt like slice of life animes played quite a big role in the sort of, I don't know, like my misinterpretation
Globalization.
of Japan.
sorry.
Yeah, pretty much exactly around the lines of what you were saying, Kenneth. Like for example, thinking back to it, some of the first ever slice of life stuff that I watched. Oh god, trying to think back what.
Toradora.
Okay, yeah, Toradora. I mean, Toradora was very, very recent, like fucking 2 days ago that I rewatched it. Okay, yeah, it is. Okay, Toradora is a perfect example, right? When I watched Toradora like 2 days ago, the way that I thought about it was, okay, this anime actually has quite a few core issues that it's kind of portraying in the story, and it's delivering them in a way that it allows people from those backgrounds to kind of chime in on it, right? In terms of single parenthood, or you know, being part of a social outcast in terms of the main character's dad being a gangster, or you know, who's it? Tiger's dad being this fucking borderline playboy who's filthy rich. So it's standard, yeah. Goddamn. Just buying her apartments whenever she wants. I was like, yo, what the fuck? This guy's got bread. Holy. But yeah, that's sort of like an anime like Toradora. I was like, okay, cool. It kind of, it's not really warping my reality, because this seems like something that's definitely possible in, you know, on a day-to-day basis. Maybe not day-to-day basis, but it definitely is something that may have or could occur to anyone's family in Japan, right? Or anyone in Japan, or multiple people around the world might be in that situation. The sort of places where I do start to have an issue is sort of animes like sort of, okay, maybe more animes like Sakuroso, because as an anime,
right.
I fucking love it, right? Don't get me wrong, but did it play a role in how I thought about school culture in Japan and, you know, sort of dating / romance culture in Japan? Yeah, it did. Granted, of course, they're all works of fiction, but it did play into the fact that, okay, so this is how it's approached, or they did this or that. Another one, My Little Monster, that was one that was more interesting because of it kind of showed like the male dominance that a lot of people look for in Japanese relationships. So it's all these things that kind of accumulated to the point where I was like, is slice of life anime kind of warping my reality of what Japan's social life is, or how Japanese people socialize / date on a day-to-day basis, and inherently is it warping my reality of what Japanese culture actually is? So would you say you guys have kind of had any of those sort of experiences with any specific animes or whatnot?
In real life, kind of, sort
Okay.
of. Well, it's not necessarily just slice of life, you know, like, but like there are things that we can relate to. Like, I'm just gonna be this person here, but you know, for example, like Naruto. Let's just say, you know how like most animes, like most Shonen Jump animes, they always have those motivational speeches and stuff.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like in Haikyuu as well. That's slice of life if we're putting it that way. Like there are things they say that you can definitely relate to in real life. So I suppose it does, you know, it does merges into reality, but obviously there are limits. You have to like bear in mind this is anime, you know, like there are things that happen in anime that really cannot happen in real life.
Of course.
I think in terms of like verbally, I suppose, like of your like the mental speeches and that, I think it does relate to it. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I don't think I can necessarily like run down Shibuya with my hand out and just scream Rasengan as I fucking run into
Yeah,
a ramen
yeah,
store.
yeah.
I don't think everyone's gonna look at me as like, oh,
Nah.
indie
I'll be
Naruto.
weirded
Like,
out.
I don't think they're gonna really think that. But no, I definitely agree.
Muda. Sorry, I just did a JoJo reference there. Oh, you should watch
Yeah,
it.
I don't know about that one.
You're missing out. You're missing out.
You end up watching
Yeah,
it
I probably
eventually.
will. No,
Yeah, you'll end up watching it. Yeah.
But yeah,
I'd
what were you saying? What were you gonna say, Kenneth? Sorry.
I don't think I have any specific examples from slice of life as of now, but I'd say that, and again a little bit on what I touched on earlier, when you speak to Japanese people, and you talk to them, and well, for whatever reason, they tend to think most of the time that the reason he came to Japan is not because of the countryside and whatever, but because
Yes.
you're like a huge
Yes.
anime fan or whatever.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
where, and even though that might be some of a reason, I would definitely say it's not the main reason you would go to Japan.
100%.
Because
Mhm.
although there's definitely some cool stuff in Japan that you won't get in other countries,
Yeah, the cultural.
I'd say
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. I
Big.
think again, personally for
Yeah.
me, the first thing like I think of when I go to Japan is, of course, the food. Like,
Oh yay!
fam, I can't stop. I'm
Yeah.
actually craving ramen right now. I know we're in like
About it.
lockdown and isolation, but I wish I
Yeah.
wish Kokoro was open right now.
oh,
Like,
don't
Oh my
please,
god, I
don't.
would love some nice like yakisoba with some
Or some
ooh,
sweet
sweet chili
chili.
chicken or some
Omurai.
not omurice is like in the
Oh,
morning.
I like
in the
omurice.
morning.
I like omurai.
I
Yeah.
wrap my
like
name in
omurice.
ketchup and all
Omurice is
that, you know.
nice.
See?
Like to do it up for
Mm-mm.
myself because I'm a lonely bastard. But
Yeah, you have no
Jeez,
mates with you then.
jeez, you know, quarantine gang, let's go. You know what it is.
Oh
But
Jesus.
yeah, I definitely agree with you on that one, Kenneth. That a lot of people Japanese people think that a lot of foreigners come to Japan because of anime. Do you think a lot of people assume that with you as well?
Definitely, because like as we've talked before, anime is like super like
It's getting
spread
super
around the
popular.
media and stuff. Like you cannot escape it. I don't think not anymore anyway. Especially when most people watch Netflix now, you'll see that bit of anime here and then. So I don't think people from Japan will never get rid of the idea that you came to Japan because you like anime. You know, you've seen
Mhm.
anime or like anime at some point in your life.
Yeah.
You know, they're not gonna get rid of that. That's definitely, which is true. Like that is definitely why most people go to Japan because of that. You know, apart from the cultural
Mhm.
difference, because anime is part of their cultural background anyway as well. So, yeah,
Hmm.
and the Japanese people are always going to assume that. That's what I think anyway. So,
Okay,
Yeah.
that's quite an interesting take on it. Toby, I want to come to you. Do you
Yeah.
do you think that you kind of had or maybe it's not really just for Toby and Kenneth, of course, for this question. Do you think combining everything that we've talked about in this in the past hour about our experiences with Japan, about our cultural thoughts on Japan, how Japan has kind of treated us in terms of how we are viewed. Do you think that kind of all together can kind of give you a binary answer on, yeah, you know what, these people came to Japan because of this, and this, or these people came to Japan for anime because of this, and this? Do you think you would find a way that you guys got categorized quite easily?
If in my opinion, I feel like it really comes down to age and as you said earlier about like depends on what you as the individual are going to like why are you there. I unfortunately I look a bit older than I am, unfortunately. If I get trim.
You're like 67 or something.
Wait, hold on. I thought you were like 89, fam. Wait, what?
what?
Toby,
You look younger.
Toby,
Thank you.
Yeah, you do
Um,
look younger than 67.
Yeah.
You're right. That's fine.
shut up.
No, I'm going. Sorry.
I'm shocked.
But I feel like when I was there, I feel like I did I went there for the anime lifestyle and the whole like arcade vibes, which was amazing. But obviously I went there with my mom and my little brother.
Mm-hmm.
My little brother, yeah, me and him share a similar view in terms of like why we came to Japan. But I feel like if my mom went there alone, I don't think they would see her as like an anime individual.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
to be, I feel like for her and the way she dresses and the way she can compose herself, I feel like her persona and her overall would project that of a person who's interested in like the culture, the lifestyle, the history, and I feel and maybe it's just me, but I feel like how you present yourself and how and uh, will lead will lead to them interpreting how or what you're there
Mm-hmm.
for. I feel like that plays a big factor because obviously, like I know that some people are really into uh, the highish like
Yeah.
fashion
Yeah.
aspect,
Totally.
and I feel like that is really like a young crowd, whereas maybe someone who's like a let's say who's going to Japan for the first time, they'd be like, okay, she might be into the whole lifestyle of like the quiet atmosphere, you know, as we said earlier.
Okay.
But I feel like I feel like age comes to play. But in terms of color and skin, I feel like black people are definitely into some most I can't say it. Most of them are definitely into anime or mangas or
Mm-hmm.
whatnot. And I feel like from outside in, I feel like they would kind of like think that yeah maybe this people are into this and this and maybe if it was like another race another color they would think differently but I'm not saying it's a bad thing but I feel like I do I understand why or if they come and conclude that opinion of certain types of tourists but overall I feel like it really comes down to age and how you present yourself and that would overall like in terms overall like lead them to conclude why or what you're there for.
Mm-hmm.
I can answer the
Okay.
question.
Holy. I mean, I think yeah, I definitely agree with that as well. In terms of the age is a huge thing of the perception of what your intentions are in terms of visiting a country for sure. But yeah, what about you, Kenneth? Anything to chime in on that?
I've had a couple experiences with how people perceive me and what I came to the country for. A few times I was interviewed on just a different things. It depended on which trip because I've been to Japan
Mm-hmm.
3 times, and each time I've gone, it's been for different reasons. Except
Okay.
once. So I've gone twice for just to visit with my friend, and one time was for a research project with my university. And when we went for the research project and we were interviewed, they asked us why we came, and the interviewer said, "Oh, did you come for anime and that kind of thing?" And then we answered saying that we came for a research project in
Mm-hmm.
Kamaishi to study about the effects of the tsunami,
Yeah.
things like that. And it was really surprised by
Oh,
our
okay.
answer. I can only assume that normally when he interviews people, he's expecting them to say yes.
Anime.
We came for anime,
Yeah.
and we came for to visit Japan and see its kind of architecture, maybe culture, that
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing.
Mm.
But I'd say that people definitely have an idea of why you came, and I don't know how accurate it is. He probably has a better idea than I do because he's interviewed
Mm-hmm.
different people. But from my experience, anyways, I'd say most of the people that go there don't go there just for anime or just to see what the manga scene and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that is like. Because for the most part, you can kind of experience that in your own
Yeah.
country, apart
Mm.
from a couple different types of experiences.
Mm.
But yeah, there's definitely a preconception of why people come to the country, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. Some people are just assuming because they want to try and get to know someone a little bit better. But it's definitely something that needs to be explored a little bit more.
Yeah, I think the fact that you had that interview with was it a television like channel?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, it was a television
okay.
channel.
I think that interview kind
Yeah.
of sums up like so much of what we've been talking about, in the sense that he was taken back that it wasn't what
Yeah,
your
typical answer.
and I think over time it's gonna either be one of two ways that this kind of goes through. It's either that anime, I think it's already on the way that anime is getting super integrated into the foreign perception of Japan. It's almost like one of these staple things of what we kind of associate with Japan, and I think that goes to say with a lot of other people as well. So yeah, pretty much that's me on that topic. Is there anything else you guys want to add on, as it is currently already an hour that this has been running for?
Oh wow, I didn't realize it was that long.
I know,
Wow.
right? Imagine
Time
talking
goes
about
by.
drunk salarymen and talking about having orgasms with food in your mouth. The hour goes by
This
very
isn't-
quickly.
We're talking
Yeah.
about food. It's like you're talking about food
Oh,
wars right now.
actually,
Food
oh yeah. Now
wars.
that sounds.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely having to eat after
Yeah,
this
I've
now.
not had my dinner yet.
I'm hungry. I'm hella
Yo,
hungry.
all I'm saying
Yeah,
is,
midnight
you're gonna see that Kokoro has been broken into tonight. I don't think I can wait any longer. I need some.
You might want to be careful. There's a recording of this now.
You're a bit.
Yeah.
食べたい。
本当に食べたい。
Well,
Anyway, guys.
well,
Okay.
wait. Well, I think to
Okay.
end it off, we should maybe talk about what we're watching right now. It doesn't have to be
Yes.
slice of life,
Okay.
and what we're planning to watch.
Okay.
Maybe
current
what we should do for the next episode is kind of move this to the front of the
Yeah,
podcast
probably.
and kind of bring this up
Yeah,
first.
That would make
yeah.
sense.
You
It
should,
would
much
make
easier
sense.
that way as
Okay,
well.
how about we start with Toby?
It can be
Sure.
watching or reading manga.
Okay. So I hopped onto the Joe bandwagon,
Okay.
and so far it's been a good journey. I think I'm on episode like 6, 7, and I watched it in space for like a couple hours. Anime, like free anime, which is not something I'm used to, but since we have time, I also use it while I do something else. But as I said before, like I've definitely grown in a way attached to the growth of the main character, because I'm all about growth as a character, and understanding why they do what they're doing in order for them to grow and be successful in whatever they aspired to be successful in. But yeah, definitely like it. It does have some sus vibes here and there. But
Could you please
I kinda
expand on
I
the
overlook
sus
it.
vibes for us really quickly?
Eh,
I think that's gonna be a
Uh,
quick vibe check from Toby right there.
I
um,
feel like a bit of vibe checks though.
Trust.
but yeah,
Tiffany would be
it's more
slacking
like
the vibe check.
hmm.
No, I'm joking.
Toby's got some questionable
Well,
stuff
like,
in his
I
manga
definitely,
cabinet, for the vibe check. I'm not even gonna lie, Kenneth. It might put you
Hey.
to shame.
No one's judging. No one's judging.
Kenneth, like, you never know, fam. Toby might be into like BL stuff. Who knows?
What?
I
You
don't
never
know.
know.
We'll pretend we've not said that.
Sorry to interrupt, Toby.
Yeah.
Keep going. Don't listen to them.
I don't. My brain's on pro now. I need to clean it. But yeah, I just want to say, like, in terms of mangas, I'm kind of finishing off like all the ones that I missed. I'm currently like, for some reason now, I'm currently into like, I don't know if it's Chinese or like,
Korean.
I'm definitely a Korean, like, yeah, that I know we're talking. I know what you think. I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
But that too. But I think that one's on this break right now. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's-
solo
wait,
level
yeah.
it is.
Oh, I
Yes,
just
it's
started
really-
reading
Solo
that.
Leveling.
Sounds
I've heard
great.
a lot about Solo Leveling.
Yeah, it's good.
It's
I think
hella
you
good.
guys should read it.
I'm on chapter
Definitely.
6. I'm
Oh,
getting
really?
through
Oh,
it.
you got a
Yeah.
lot to catch up.
And it's so good. I swear, it's like
Yeah.
it's a whole journey, it's a whole ride. It's you would
Hold
definitely love.
on.
But I'm really into martial arts mangas.
Yeah.
Quick question.
Anything fighting.
How do I say this? How ero is Solo Leveling?
It's
I'm
not
not
very
interested.
arrow. It's not arrow. Wow. Wow.
That was the
Mm,
wrong answer, Chris. You
I'm
should
not
have.
gonna lie, I need some like breakdown of what that meant. What that means.
Ero to how over 18 is it?
Over 18.
Oh, I mean, there's definitely some like
Oh.
gruesome, like
Fuck
you
the
know,
gruesome
your
stuff,
little
fam.
bit of
I'm trying to see some
Yeah, yeah.
oppai, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Oh, yeah, it's not for you, not for you.
I'm trying to see some big
Not
batty and
you,
some
not you.
oppai.
Wait, okay.
Excuse me.
Roadman
Okay.
turned otaku.
Okay.
What about you,
Right,
Kenneth?
How about you, Chris?
Wait,
Oh, shit.
We're just gonna skip over you, yeah? You asked a question.
Whoa.
We're gonna
Take
skip
over.
over you.
Who's taking over?
We're not
Okay, okay,
skipping.
go
We're
on,
not
go on.
skipping. Well, I can go if you want.
Okay, so for me, I'm continuing on to watching JoJo, and I'm watching Cannon Busters at the moment as well. So that's
Cannon
pretty
Busters.
much it. Yeah. Yo,
What's that?
the opening and ending is so pang. Like, you guys should listen. It's like top charts.
Oh,
charts.
we've already established.
Hold
which
on,
opening
we've
is
already
best.
established the pengest opening, and that's Black Clover EP 10.
no, I tell
OP
you
10,
this.
sorry.
The
No,
Fire
I
Force
tell you
opening
this.
was
You
the
guys
best
listen
opening
to it.
ever made.
Nah.
Okay, well, show
Yeah,
us later.
yeah,
That's fine.
yeah. Okay, okay.
What I'm watching right now. Oh, I've gone back into watching One Piece finally. I think I'm
One P. Oh, that's so long.
I'm on a Doflamingo arc. I think that's like near episode
Yeah,
7.
totally, Chief. I know exactly what you're talking about.
I
Our biggest One Piece fan
I've
over
got
here.
Okay.
to catch up on. I've just finished watching Hunter x Hunter. That was amazing, and
Fair
how
enough.
dare they stop? Fucking
Fam,
hell,
I
man.
need to
I've
watch
got-
Hunter x Hunter. It's been on my radar
Oh,
for
it's so good.
quite a while. I've just never got around to doing it for some reason.
I binge watched that shit in 1 week, man. It was so good. Yeah, that's really what I'm watching right now. I'm not really planning to watch. I don't think I really have anything on the list. I'll have a look. But what about you, Shiv?
Oh, where do I begin? Where do I begin?
Oh, no, just spill it. What you got
Okay,
in mind?
so in terms of what is kind of new for me in terms of what I'm watching, today I've pretty much been watching Domestic Girlfriend. Whole
Wait, domestic
Good shit.
girlfriend or house?
no, Domestic Girlfriend.
Domestic.
Is it a manga?
I'm
Yeah,
pretty
it's
sure
also
there's a
manga,
for it.
yeah.
It's
It's
not the
manga.
one you're thinking of.
Hey, let me just give you a quick synopsis, okay?
Hey,
My guy,
Oh,
My-
that one.
yeah,
that one. Okay. There is.
my
a
guy
manga,
likes the
yes.
teacher.
Yeah, that's
my
the manga,
my
yeah.
guy likes a student. He hits the student in terms of, you know what I'm saying, a bit of etchy. He hits the student, and then next thing you know, his father remarries to a woman, and the woman's daughter is both the teacher and the student that he hit.
Mm-hmm.
It's
I've watched that. It's
crazy,
good.
and I'm loving it.
It's
So it's a Domestic Girlfriend. I kind of rewatched Roscoe Doesn't Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai. 'Cause
Bunny
yeah,
Girl.
So-
Oh, that's
really
so-
good.
That's
'cause
cute. Yeah, I think.
There's a movie.
I watched it. I finished watching it last week, and I kind of want to rewatch it to kind of get a grasp of what the entire whole, what if there was any deeper meaning to the manga. I mean, to the anime itself. And on top of that, I did watch Roscoe Does Not Dream of Dreaming Girl, which is the movie. Definitely not lived up to the hype in my opinion. Not too huge on it. Apart from that, not much. Just pretty much been rewatching some stuff. Rewatched if my daughter's even if my daughter's a devil. Fuck. What's the title? I completely whiffed the title. What was that? Yeah, if it's for my daughter, I'd even defeat a demon lord. It's kind of like this.
Oh
it's
yes,
a,
yes,
it's
yes.
pretty
yes.
pretty fun anime. I know Shokugeki no Soma Plate 5 is coming out, which I'm kind of
Yeah.
excited for as well.
Oh, I need to catch up on that.
Yeah.
Season 3.
Kino's Journey, which I just recently started. Finished Science Fell in Love, so I tried to prove it, which is by far one of my all-time favorite rom-com animes. And then finally, I finished Say I Love You, which is quite generic in my opinion. It's quite. It's very very like it's the art style is a bit different.
It's weird, but it's tolerable.
It's
it's okay. Yeah.
I don't know. It just felt. I don't know about you, Chris, but it felt very much like My Little Monster, in terms of like the almost tsundere-ish.
I feel the vibe. Yeah, I feel the vibe on
so
it.
yeah, that's pretty much what I've been watching. As usual, an extensive list of either old or new.
Okay. To be fair, I did just remember I finished watching the Konosuba movie. That was
Konosuba.
so
Yeah,
good.
I haven't seen that one yet. Please no
Still
spoilers.
not seen that
Okay,
yet either.
okay,
No,
I'm not gonna spoil it, but it's so
January.
good.
Listen, Kenneth, the moment you told
I
me
mean-
about it and I googled and then I got one clip of
Konosuba?
my guy was on. My guy was doing the dirty in the bed. I was like,
Hey, spoilers.
I was like,
No,
yo, this
no
might be
spoilers.
my kind of
No
movie,
spoilers. It's a good movie. I think I just really enjoyed it because I finished watching season 2 and then there was just nothing Konosuba for a while and then they released a movie. So I was excited about that, but God, I love Konosuba. Definitely my top 5. It's so funny.
Okay,
yeah.
so coming up to 1 hour and 17 minutes. Any closing remarks from anyone else?
No, I don't really have anything to say. No. Social
Yeah,
distance.
stay safe, stay at home, guys.
safe,
Don't
stay
go
safe,
outside.
yeah.
Watch some anime.
Zoom
Make sure to
is
wash your
cool.
hands,
Mm.
every 20 seconds. Well, not 20 seconds.
Every 20
Every-
seconds.
Everyone,
20 minutes.
wash your
20
hands
minutes,
every 20
sorry.
minutes. Otherwise, Toby will tickle your toes.
Oh shit.
Bro, why me? Oh my. Reputation out the window, completely left the room.
Question that.
Oh, bro.
Anyway, guys,
Yes, let's
thank
wash
you
our hands.
so much for listening, either on YouTube or SoundCloud. Even though I've not yet created the SoundCloud account, but we will very, very soon. As usual, we look to post a episode every week, and if there are any sort of topics that you'd like us to discuss or any animes you'd like us to check out, feel free to put them into the description. We will have everyone's social media, or whoever wants to have their social media displayed, in the description as well. And definitely be sure to check out Krisha's links down below for her cosplays. And on that note, thank you so much for listening,
Thank
and
you.
we shall see you next week.